Well, hello. How is everybody?
Hey, hey, doing good.
Doing good. Well, we're a little late. It's always my fault. It's okay.
Nah,
30 seconds a minute, it's all right. I'm okay with that. But
Totally.
y'all probably can see that we have a guest. So I'm going to introduce you, Amanda. This is Amanda Law with Amanda Law Photography. Amanda is pretty much awesome. She is a friend of mine and my wife's. She is a fantastic photographer. She is going out with Jonathan and I several places this year, and she's really good. Not that I didn't think
Toot
otherwise.
toot.
So, yeah. So, Amanda, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved watching your intro video from the backstage. It was cool.
Well, that's Jonathan Sanders. We give him lots of credit around here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hey, Chuck, thanks so much for giving us a thumbs up. Says perfect picture there, so that's fantastic. So we're just gonna we're gonna jump in. This is really going to be an open forum. So if you join us and have questions at all about photography, lighting, anything around photography, what you think needs to happen, what you don't like that's happening, or whatever it is, uh, Amanda's here to answer, not me. But Amanda may also have some questions as well. So if you've got those, that's great too. So we're
I'm
just going to
excited.
jump.
I'm excited today to be able to talk to somebody who's a professional photographer and who is very familiar with business photography and making
Yeah,
sure that she captures a brand and is able to really tell the story with visuals and images. In marketing, we're down and dirty sometimes, right? I mean, one of
Yeah.
the biggest challenges that we have as people are still coming on, one of the biggest challenges we have is getting good images from our customers, um, and the images that help to tell the story of that company. And so, um, you know, we oftentimes our advice is, well, let's get familiar with our iPhone or our Android phone. I mean, it's got a camera on it, and
Yeah.
here's some down and dirty things that you can do to at least get some images to us. They're not going to be, super professional, but they're at least going to cover some of the things that we would like for you to be able to put on your website. And if you'll give it to your marketing company, we can do that for you. But to talk to a professional who's, going to show up with real professional cameras and the abilities to really be able to capture the story well and tell a professional visual story. I'm just looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy how good iPhones are getting. iPhones and Android phones are the pictures are getting better and better and better. But there are certainly some things that I'm able to do with, professional lenses and professional camera that you know, can trump an iPhone,
Well, it's not. It's more than just about. Let's talk about that for a second, because it's more than just about the equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you're going to show up with a camera body that's a couple $1,000s and a whole bunch of glass in front of that's
Yeah.
countless thousands of dollars. That's one thing, but the ability to use it, the ability to know what to get, right? Like, I mean, it's the skill that you have in using that equipment that is really, to me, the distinguishing factor. You're right, cameras are getting better on phones, but taking good images is still a
Yeah.
skill, and that's something that I've seen your work. I'm impressed. So it's something that you do. And talk a little bit about um, just your journey. I mean, you've been doing this for how long?
Yeah, I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. And something that came to mind while you were talking about that is, they say, statistics, you just kind of pull them out of the air, but they say something like 90% of photos are taken from right around 5.5, 6 feet up, because people take pictures standing, and you don't think about kind of changing that perspective and getting those, maybe lower angles or different angles, to show something from a different perspective than what you're just sitting and watching and looking at. So I think that is a really cool way to kind of change up the view and the attitude in that, and that comes with that experience of professional photography. I went to college for photography. That's not something that a lot of people do. A lot of people jump, straight into this industry with their passions and learn on the fly. But I think my college experience really gave me the tools I need to do something as multifaceted as, business advertising. I have experience with product photography, really high quality professional photos of products that people are selling, and also with kind of editorial and narrative photography, telling these stories of what these people do. And you might not think it's glamorous, but it's not. Being deep in an industry, you kind of get tunnel vision on what you think is cool or what you think is worth mentioning even, and having an outside perspective kind of can look at something as beautiful that you might not think. I remember Taylor and I did a shoot a while back, and there was a bunch of linings and just these tubes that were stacked up in a warehouse. And I was like, wow, that looks really cool. And it's just, a picture that they could use on a website as a background, or, just as some B-roll, behind a testimonial or something, or behind a story of this is our warehouse, and it's fun to have that different eye. And I think that doing this for as long as I have has kind of helped me gain that, but also having the conversations with the business owners and the people in the business as to what they think is the important things about them and the difference makers about their business and what they bring to the table and how we can capture that.
I would imagine that, so, when the boss shows up with a camera, everybody's like, oh boy, here we go. It's like, he's going to make us do all this stuff and whatever. But when you show up, there's a level of access that you get that because you're a stranger, but you're also a professional, right? So that just changes the game in terms of people's response to you. They're willing to do more of what you're asking them to do. They're cooperating better, but they're also, watching you be a professional, and that inspires a lot of confidence and their willingness to cooperate. Is that kind of what you see?
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody's first thing in like a headshot context is like, oh, well, you've got the Photoshop, right? You can make this look good. And I'm like, absolutely. Everybody gets a little touch and we make everything look beautiful. You don't have to worry a single bit, and to be able to put that polish on things, I do think inspires a little bit of confidence and has people, pulling in things that, maybe is an idea that they had that I wouldn't have thought of, or, something that they think is special that we can then work to capture in that great way.
They probably listen to your ideas a little bit more too, though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the other thing I've got to come up with. That's one of my favorite things to do to prepare for this whole thing, is to come up with a shot list, to kind of, that's the best way to prepare for this. So I'm not running around trying to find things, flying by the seat of my pants, trying to put together pictures from a huge pile of stuff. I think putting together a shot list and proposing that as, these are the things that I know that you guys do. These are the ideas that I have that we can put together.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think another thing that really makes a difference, and I'm really glad Jillian's on here, because Jillian is somebody that is a very accomplished photographer. She's at Anderson's up in Pennsylvania, does a lot of photography for the Guild, and just really a fantastic photographer. But she doesn't have a lot of time because she's running a business. I mean, she does a great job, with her, and she takes shots with firemen and fire trucks, and very involved in that. And we've talked about that, and you have to have somebody that has the time that can make the effort. There she is, right there. She's awesome. She says hi. Hi, Jillian. It's great that you're here. I was hoping you would be here. Thank you. Um, but it's very difficult for somebody that's in the business, even if they have the skill set to be able to travel and do some of these things. So having somebody from the outside in, there's two things that I've noticed about you, Amanda, and I don't know if this is everybody, so I can't say it's every photographer. I just don't know. But the one thing I've noticed is how prepared you are. Uh, you're more prepared than I am, I think.
I love to be prepared.
I'm telling you,
love it.
you have an idea. You've asked me questions. I mean, I have to go find answers and figure stuff out for you, and also for Jonathan. He's as bad because I'm flying around. But the other thing that I absolutely have loved about you, I've never worked with anybody that has gone with me that's not in that I've hired from the outside that once we get there is not constantly asking me questions. So what I know how prepared you are, and one of the clients that we went to made this conversation is like, you don't have to say anything to her. She just kind of knows what to do. And I'm like, yeah, I really like that because I don't have to tell you anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Having been in this business for as long as I have, just starting out and starting as an assistant and working with a bunch of different people, I hate to not be prepared. I don't know, and I will say it's not everybody. I do think that I've worked with people in the past that, you show up and you figure it out on the run. And there's a degree of that, I mean, I went on my first job with you and it was, these sort of service-based warehouse. I'm shooting in a warehouse, like is not necessarily something I've ever done before, but that's why it was really important to me to do the research beforehand and kind of look at, what exists out there and who is doing this kind of work and what is a good way to sell that kind of work. But being prepared is one of my favorite ways to approach things because I don't like to run around and try to figure things out on the fly. So I'm an over preparer for sure.
Well, I think the other thing, because and Carter, I think you've alluded to this a little bit. Having someone that deals in photography, but also understands social media, understands websites, has provided pictures for both those formats, and the whole nine yards. Whether it's TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, no matter what it is, what I notice is the array of pictures that we get from the various different angles that you were talking about, and how you've been very specific to me of saying, yeah, I shot this one because of this. I shot this one because I thought it would be good for that. And it really helps kind of outline an entire marketing portfolio, if you will, from all the different places.
Yeah.
And that's been great as well. I think that's fantastic.
I think the key is, you're, as a professional, you're not thinking about just what would make an interesting photo, but you're thinking about what are the most usable photos for the purposes that, that I've been hired to get. And
yeah,
like to think through marketing and social media and the website and online and brochures and, all the places that your photos might land. I'm sure you're thinking about that kind of stuff as you're going, aren't you?
Oh, for sure. And that's something that's so essential to think about because, whether it's using it for Instagram and that, from my own marketing and marketing my own business, that Instagram likes verticals. Instagram really likes verticals because they take up the whole bunch of the screen. A horizontal image only takes up so much. But at the same time, a Instagram only likes an 8x10 and a native camera resolution is an 8x12. So if you're shooting, and this is all super jargony at this point, but things. And the whether you're shooting for a banner image or, you know, shooting for a process shot of some sort, this all kind of has to do with how you shoot it and what you search for as you're shooting this stuff. So it's so important.
So that's lesson number one that if you're listening and you're like, yeah, I can't really hire, professional, but I would just tell you right now is the very first thing you need to do is go figure out how big the photos, vertical, horizontal, square, what takes what, so that you have a really good idea of what that is. So if you're going to be on Instagram, it's great information to have to know that that's what you need. So I think that's a great takeaway from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really is storytelling. I want to talk about that for a minute because you've said it and I've alluded to it as well, or talked a little bit about it. At Spark Marketer, that's very much our approach is marketing through storytelling and making sure that we're capturing the brand and the story that they, that drives who they are and what they do. But, so much of the story is about people. And one of the things that I see in home service businesses is the tendency to focus on the work. Mm-hmm. It's pictures of a leaky pipe or pictures of a chimney that's falling apart. And then maybe that's the before picture and the after picture is it all put back together and looking good again. And those are good. Those help to tell the story. But one of the things that I think people who don't have the expertise to understand what those photos really mean in terms of, what they've done or anything else. One of the first things that a consumer needs to know about a business is who are the people? Like, who am I going to talk to when I call? And, who's going to show up at my house? And what are they going to do? And so those shots that involve people, those shots that help to tell the story by showing the people involved and the things that they do, I think really help build that connection that a consumer needs to feel connected to a company.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of going to this, using stock photography versus using your own photography. Using your own photography, having your own people in the shots, having your own logos in the shots, it creates this, repetitive exposure to not only your brand, but to have the people behind your brand. Because when someone's looking at your website or when someone's looking at your social media, they know what their problems are because they can see them in their own house. But I think what sells them on whether or not to choose you over a competitor potentially is, what's the experience going to be like working with this group of people that I'm potentially inviting into my home, and I think so then the people involved are so important, and if customer service is a really big part of your business, it might be worth it to do some customer interactions in their photos rather than just, this is what we do, this is it done, and kind of using that experience to sell your product and your service as well as just exactly what you do.
I'm sorry, Taylor, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's really interesting that the one thing you have to remember when you do that, I just want to throw this in, is you've got to get permission.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. You can't just go, onto a site, whether it's your company or you hire somebody, it doesn't matter. You need to have permission because, you need to be very transparent and let them know that this is for marketing purposes. And sometimes we'll go in and they're like, yep, I'm fine with being in the picture. I'm okay. We have other times as you can do this, and this, but I do not want to be in a picture at all. And then you have some people that says, as long as it's just the chimney, I don't want people to be able to identify my home, where I'm at. I mean, people have all kinds of different ideas of privacy, and we have to respect that and make sure that happens. So don't think that just because, you have a customer that you can just arbitrarily go in and start taking pictures of things. I know you document, especially the chimney guys, they document, how it was when they got there, the process going through. They document it with pictures, which is fine because you can't identify those units. but anything that is identifiable on the outside or inside, there are people, they're a little wonky about that. So we have to make sure we have permission. So just want to throw that in.
Yeah, I'm working on some shots right now, and I've just have been pulling some address numbers off of mailboxes. It's not even something we necessarily have talked about yet, but I just felt like it was something that probably would be something good to do, so that we don't have truly identifiable numbers and streets for these houses that we've been at, that we've even had permission to film at.
No, I think that's smart.
One of the things I really appreciate about the work that I've seen from your the sessions that you've been involved with our company is your candids, your candid shots. I wouldn't even call them B-roll. I mean, I know, that's a whole term in the industry as far as like, principal photographer, you're going after the real reason we're here kind of shots versus, shots that fill in the backgrounds and help to tell the story, but aren't necessarily the focus. But these tell the story. I mean, they're so good. They to me, they're principal photography. They're part of the reason you're there. Talk about what, like when you go to show up at a client's, that you've done with us, what are you thinking about in terms of like your checklist and not necessarily like point by point what you're going to try to get while you're there, but what are you thinking about in terms of what's going to help tell the story?
Well, I come from a wedding photography background. So that is such a wild event. There's so much that goes into those things, and you wouldn't think that it would apply, but I swear it does.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, it's thinking about the process and thinking about the different stages that come in, these guys suiting up in their safety gear, and coming in and greeting the customer, or wrapping this, passing this. I think as I run through, usually we've had the grace of having all these days that we have access to these people and having, multiple hours to kind of look through and shoot these different things. I concentrate on knowing the process and capturing the different elements of the process as we go through these different jobs. And then the different things that stand out as moments of care, that's always a great thing to capture. I love like the pictures of the chimney guys that we've been working with recently, spreading out a drop cloth, these and making sure that everything is just so, it illustrates the care. I think when you look at somebody doing these different things, you can tell the why that they're doing them if you compose a sort of narrative shot. It's hard to kind of describe how to get there, but you can look at a shot and think, what is this guy doing and why is he doing it, and what is that doing for this customer?
That's really where training and skill and years of experience really kind of coalesces into someone who can get that shot that tells that story, that a consumer can look at and immediately identify with or feel, confidence inspiring, this company really gets it. They care.
Yeah.
This is who I want to hire. And not everybody can do that. And that's really what I see in your.
Well, that's the other thing. I am a watcher. I have always been a watcher. I got in trouble for it as a kid because I would just, watch my sister and my mom do things. And, there's always this kind of appraising look on my face, maybe. And I got in trouble for, always watching over my mom's shoulder when she was doing something. And now, if I ever am caught doing it, she's sure that I'm sure I can do it better. But it's not that. I really enjoy watching things happen. And I think that really has lend a great hand in me being able, because I love to watch these things happen.
I think I would say you're very curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. So I'm going to put this up here, but I'm going to change it a little bit. So Chuck's like, the details are important. That's why you hire Spark and Amanda. I would say that's why you hire professionals. Don't do their job. You go make the cash to pay for, correct quality work, doing your craft. So you make the money doing what you do, and then hire professionals to come in and do what they do. Because as we spoke about last week, it's getting more and more important to have photography, professional photography, that the Google AI can pick up and identify as what it is. So, if you didn't see that last week, I would go back and check that out. Pick that particular thing up, because there's a lot of things changing on Google because of their AI. So, yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about that. Before we got on today, Amanda asked the question, she was curious from our perspective as marketers, how the images, what sort of role Google plays in that whole visual world, and especially when it comes to stock photography and seeing the same image over and over and over again versus unique images. And so hopefully we'll get a chance to answer that a little bit. But I do want to say just about your point, Taylor, hiring professionals. One of the things I like about this team and the dynamic that happens when a photographer is working closely with a marketing partner on behalf of a mutual client is that there's just such, I'm going to use a word I hate just because it sounds so corporate and
it is
synergy, right? I mean,
I could tell.
it's the only word to describe it. So when it's the right word to use, I do use it, but I always hesitate because it's so overused and so cliche. But synergy is what happens when two things combine together to create something that's even better than the sum of its parts. And so that's kind of what I see happening here. And that's why I'm excited to be talking today to Amanda specifically, is because of that synergy that's really come about and that helps to tell the stories of our clients.
Yeah, it's all about the communication. I was talking to Taylor a couple days ago and saw a website that you guys are in the process of building. And it was a new insight that I hadn't had on a previous job, which is given me more things to add to my shot list to make sure that we conquer, because they are looking at what you guys are building and where I can fit into these different things and how I can get you the things that you need for that. And I think that is speaking to the hiring of professionals. We all have things that we do better. I'm back. Am I here?
Yeah, you're here now.
Okay.
You dropped out for a second.
Yeah, I'm not an SEO guy. I'm not a web developer. I've been able to do what I can. I had somebody recently find me on Google, and I was amazed and happy and surprised. But having you guys have this, finger on the pulse of things that me as a person who specializes in what I do, I don't think about. I've got my finger on the pulse of the, newest and best camera gear and how to do this, that, and the other thing, but not necessarily anything about Google's algorithm. And that's why I was asking you about stock photography, because I've heard, that Google doesn't like repeated content. And I was wondering, I always think that it's better to have your people in your photos and have unique to you photos just for the kind of know and like, trust kind of mantra. But I was wondering if that, as Google starts to get smarter with images, as it sees stock images that are used by whoever knows how many people, if that will be this kind of repeat content that doesn't get pushed.
Yeah.
So the way that Google looks at it is whoever has the stock photography first wins. That's it. So if you have stock photography that you use, then it's just, Google doesn't give any kind of anything to it. So if you have original pictures, and especially if you change those out, it's not the same. So on your website, a lot of people don't understand. One of the things, heard a guy actually today on a webinar that I was on talking about SEO. Said the problem is everybody thinks SEO is one and done. He said SEO is done when Google stops changing their algorithms, which they do about 3,000 times a year, and all your competitors are dead. So when that happens, SEO is done. So, what SEO really is a bunch of tweaks and changes that happen over time, and it's a continual thing. Mm-hmm. And so all the people, if you're a competitor and you are, let's just say, your competitor in baseball, your baseball player. Well, who's going to win? The baseball player that goes out and just plays the game, or the guy that is every day he's pitching, he's batting, he's doing the little things that have to be done to stay in shape? That's what SEO really is. It's the people that are always doing those things day in and day out. And, it's the little tweaks and valleys, and a lot of people don't understand that. So part of that is video, part of it is photography. So when you're changing those things out, Google notices that. They know, oh, this person is paying attention to their website. That is a signal to them, those little changes. So photography and video is very important, when it comes to SEO.
And is intelligent enough now with image search, to be able to know whether an image has ever appeared on the web before or not. And so when it sees a unique image that literally is not seen anywhere else on the web, that counts. And that's one of those things that is a really big deal. And, we use stock images when we have to, when a client has not been able to help us get additional images, or can't pay for or won't pay for, professional photography services. But the reason we do it is not for the Google stuff. The reason we do it is simply because it does help draw a visitor's eye further down the page and stay more engaged. Visuals do help in telling a story. But if you take a stock image of a smiling person on the phone versus an image of an actual employee at the actual business with a smile on the phone, guess which one is going to connect with your customer, in a more indelible kind of way? And there's just no question that taking not only the time, but the getting serious about getting good images of your people and of the processes and things that you do in your business, that just connects with customers far and above what any stock image is capable of doing.
I think that what you're saying about, putting in the effort into your website to change things, I think that bringing in professional photography is another element of effort. It just puts you into a professional sphere that I think really elevates a business.
Yeah, no, I would agree. So now I'm going to say one last thing here, because I think it's really, really important. I'm going to tie this up a little bit. So yes, original photography, very important when it comes to SEO. All right. Very, very important. However, it's even more important in my mind because it attracts the type of people that you want in your business. SEO is about bringing the right kind of traffic. It really is about traffic. If you just look at overall traffic, you can bring in all kinds of traffic with SEO. Our philosophy is a little bit different in that, traffic is great, but we want to bring the right type of traffic. Once we've brought the right type of traffic to the website, now the website has to convert. Okay, that is different than SEO. There is on-page SEO with the writing to be able to match some things, but that has to convert. If you've got a bunch of stock images as opposed to real people in your community that they can go on the about page and see all the headshots that you have of your technicians and know who's going to come in their homes, who they're calling, who they're talking to. That's a conversion point. So, yes, it's important for search engine optimization, but is equally, if not more so, important for those people, that traffic that get there actually convert. So I there's a full circle thing there.
Yeah.
That has to do with those images and video as well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's some other stuff we could get into.
Oh Lord.
But like I'd love to pick your brain at some point about just the issue we see with businesses ripping off photography from other sites and the whole copyright issue and everything else. And I can prep you for that before the conversation today, so I'm not going to spring it on you now, but maybe off camera we could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
That's it's a big issue. It's something that we see our clients have to deal with sometimes with competitors. And
put your brand in it,
Yeah.
Then they'll have to Photoshop it out,
That's true. Watermark,
which they can do, and I have seen, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough to claim your images and have them remain with who they're supposed to remain with.
But there are some best practices. You mentioned
Yes.
watermarking, terms of use for the website, all of these things, and protecting, with statements about the photography on your website. Those are all things that need to be done to make sure that you're doing what you can to then go after a competitor who has ripped off the site in blatant violation of your terms of use of the website and those sorts of things. So
we'll have to have you back and really go into the details of how to protect your photography.
Love it. Yeah.
So we'll make that happen in the next couple of months or so, and give everybody that information. I think that's great. Terry, thank you, Terry. That's fantastic. We can go into that and really we can go down the rabbit hole with that one, Terry. Just get ready. I'm just saying. Just know that. Guys, if you have enjoyed this, give us a thumbs up or a heart if you would. The Facebook gods keep telling us they like that. So we're going to keep encouraging people to do that, which is awesome. Just know if you want to listen to this again or tell your friends about us, Spark Live can be found as a podcast. It's on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or your favorite player. And next week, I don't have a slide for that because we're going to do something totally different. Next week, Carter and I are going to make ourselves available for a Q&A, questions and answers. So we'll have a few things that we get asked quite a bit, kind of to I guess, get the conversation started. But we really want you guys to have an opportunity to ask any question, that marketing question, sales question, conversion question, any of those kind of things that you want. But before we go, Amanda, tell us, if somebody wanted to contact you directly, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
So they could email me at amanda@amandalawphotography.com, or you can visit my website. There's lots of forms there that you can fill out, amandalawphotography.com, or I'm on Instagram too, same name.
amandalawphotography.com. There you go. That's you. All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. We really do appreciate all of y'all that come every week. Hope you guys got some great information from this, and we'll see you next week for a good Q&A period. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Amanda, for being on today. Appreciate it. Look forward to working with you on more jobs.
It was such a pleasure.
Yeah. There's Terry. Great job. Thanks, Amanda. Awesome. Thanks, guys.